here.
Wow.
What's going on, beautiful people?
I wasn't sure where you were
We
gonna
gotta
go
harmonize
with
with that. If I'm gonna go high, you gotta go low. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Yeah, you gotta hit the people, and I go people, and then it just sounds like a beautiful symphony. You know what I'm talking about? What's going on, baby? How you feeling?
Next time. I'm good. You know.
You look good.
Thank you.
You got your powder going today.
Yes. The translucent powder.
Looking good, baby.
Yeah.
I love it. Glasses on. Looking all elegant. Yeah, you want me to keep? I have a lot more. I didn't know if you want me to keep going.
And maybe 2 more.
Intellectual.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was trying to find another big word. I just want to say beautiful. That's too
I was
easy.
like, the pause is just
That's too easy.
Killed the vibe, babe. Killed it.
I didn't roll with the punches. You see, I'm comfortable today, y'all. I got the toes out.
Wow.
Come on, somebody.
Toes out.
Is this song? Y'all got that? Bet.
No one wants to see that, babe.
they not throwing up gang signs.
You
And I just got my toes done last week.
And you want to show everyone your toes?
I'd rather kiss a toe than eat a placenta.
Anyway,
Put some hot sauce on them toes.
if you guys weren't here for the last pod, go back and listen to it. We talk all about my placenta.
Yeah, if we do a poll, I guarantee you people rather toes over placentas. I'm not putting no placenta in my mouth. Anywho,
Wow.
what's going on, baby? What are we getting into today?
So this was a heavy hitter on our IG stories. Everyone wanted us to talk about how to balance marriage and kids.
And thank you. Hey, shout out to everybody who tapped in with us on the IG stories. You guys gave us a lot of recommendations. You guys gave us a lot of things that were that were on your heart that you wanted to hear our perspective on. So thank you guys so much for sharing that with us. And oh yeah, you can't forget, it's time for the formalities. So for those who are tapping in right now, you know what I'm saying? We appreciate you guys. We love you so much. It's At Home with the Harveys. I'm your boy, Matthew Harvey. This is my beautiful wife,
Dana.
There we go. You better say the Harvey, girl. You better represent.
Oh, sorry. Dana Harvey.
Let's go. And, we're blessed that you guys are here. So if you guys like what you guys have been hearing, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things, because it helps us just to get this word out to everybody else who may need it. And even if this is just for the 2 people out there who are watching, this is for you.
Shout out to y'all.
Yes. For those people out there. I was going to try to say people in Spanish. How you say people in Spanish, Mario? Mi gente, dos mi gentes out there. This is for you. You know what I'm saying? So it's a pleasure to have you guys, and let's get it. Let's make this happen.
Let's talk about some stuff.
Let's talk about some stuff. So
some important stuff.
So when it comes to balancing marrying.
That's a verb. I guess.
It's what you do. We're marrying hard right now.
Add it to our vocabulary.
Let's do it. So when it comes to balancing marriage and kids, or marriage and family, just in general, and babies, all the things. We got a dog too. Is Mac in the clip? Mac wants to be a podcaster now. I don't know what's happening. He's hanging out. Do your thing, bro. But when it comes to that, like what do you think is something that you did that helped you feel more comfortable or helped you balance that? And what was that light switch that went off that's like, I need to do better in this area?
Well, I would say before we had kids, I talked to a lot of people. I listened kind of like to hear what their stories were. And I'm like, I don't like how they did that. And, I like how they did that. Because one thing that I really valued was our marriage. Like, I loved us. I loved me and you. And so for us to bring in another human that really breaks up the dynamic of us, not in a negative way, but it does hinder the progress of our love sometimes. So I felt like one of the things that I tried to do was not get too attached to my child. And, there's seasons, of course. So, I feel like you have to give everyone grace when you become a new parent. During parenthood, you're just kind of like in survival mode. But there are some people, and a lot of our friends I've noticed, there's like this kind of like maternal gatekeeping where they cling to their kids and they pour all of their energy into their kids, and that kind of just like leaves you with nothing. Like you have nothing left for your spouse. And I really didn't want to get there. Like I kind of recognized that early in the beginning. And so we kind of did little things that we could in each season to make sure that our marriage was always strong. I feel like people do find it to be hard to balance, but I feel like it changes in seasons, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. Because I remember when we was broke as a joke, you know what I'm saying? We was pinching pennies. You know what I'm saying? We could, all the pennies. We was putting it together and we was like, oh, we going to go on this date. What was that?
What was that? I don't know. Anyways.
That's the devil. You remember? Anytime something, the devil is trying to tear us down.
Oh my gosh.
But
anyway.
yeah, man, when we were struggling back in the day, we still, no matter what, we still made a way to find time for each other.
Yeah.
Whether it was going to McDonald's and eating some off that dollar menu. Sorry,
No,
how
we did not do
disrespectful.
that.
It was Taco Bell.
Taco
If
Bell
she's going to get that
always.
cheesy bean and burrito. What is that? Cheesy bean and rice.
Shout out to Taco Bell.
It was not a pleasant night, but you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we ate
delicious.
good, or if you want to call that good, with that grade D meat. But,
Oh my gosh.
but we always found a way to spend time with each other and continue to date each other, continue to get to know each other on a different level, because I think the misconception that people have is that your spouse is just going to be the same forever,
Right.
you know? And if that's the case, then there's no growth and no development there. There's always going to be growth and development as time goes on. You know, their body's going to change, their emotions are going to change. When they have kids, you know, their priorities change a little bit. And I think it's really just ensuring that you're aware of those changes. You guys are on the same page. And the only way that you can truly be on the same page in those seasons is if you're spending that quality time with each other and connecting. So I think that's something that we made a priority for us from day one.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that when you prioritize your marriage, it actually produces happier kids. There's a lot of study on that, actually. And I've read a lot of books about it too. But I think it's really important for people to realize that I know that there's this thing that, especially on social media, going around like, oh, you know, this is my time to spend with my kids because I'll have my time with my husband later. But no, because like if you do that and you prioritize your children over your spouse, then you distance yourself. You think that, you know, everything's going to be hunky dory for like the next 18 years. And when they leave the nest, you and your husband are just going to like be all good. Like, I don't know. I was going to say something.
Yeah, no, go ahead, say it. Go ahead, get ratchet.
Be all
girl.
Gucci or whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Don't be shy. Drop that Gucci
I'm
bar
like,
on them.
why am I saying that? But anyways, so I think that people can really hold on to that because but there's a healthy balance.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to recognize that attachment you have with your children and make sure that it's a healthy attachment so that you're not neglecting your spouse, so that you guys aren't strangers by the time your kids leave the nest and you're like, what do you like to do? I don't know. What do you like to do? You know, like, so it's really important to build on that strength and for your kids to have a really good example of a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And I think before we even jump into the prioritizing time with each other, I think that, and God being at the center helps us a lot too. You know, Matthew 6:33 says, you know, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things and all his righteousness and all these things will be added onto you. And one of those things is our marriage. One of those things is our family. One of those things are our finances. One of those things is our home. There's just all those things that we focus on so much that distracts us. We'll all be aligned if we just put God first.
Right.
So I think, and I you guys probably hear it all the time, but just in case you've never heard it before, is that triangle, a pyramid picture where you have God at the center, at the top, and then, you know, you have the husband and wife at the bottom corners. And it's like the closer that you guys get to God, the closer you guys are going to get to each other.
Yeah.
So I think that it's so important to have God at the center of your relationship, because that way, first of all, you guys have that thing in common. And it's like you guys will never get bored of each other, because if you could talk about God all day, that's a great thing to talk about.
Oh, yes.
But at the same time, it's like, man, God's gonna make sure that every other area of your life has what it needs, just because you're putting Him first. So I think that's number one. And then we can go into prioritizing each other.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Scripture says that he leaves his mother and father and then joins with his wife and they become one. And I think that's really important for people to remember, that when you become one, you're doing everything in oneness.
Yeah.
So parenthood is not a mother thing and a father thing. It's a parenthood. You do it together. And so the balance there is easy when you guys are doing things together. And I think one of the things that we realized is that we realized this really early, is the contribution that we had in our home. You know, we didn't really have roles for each other. Like, I do all the cooking, you do all the cleaning, or you always take out the trash, even though you do kind of always take out the trash, and vice versa. I think it's really important for it not necessarily to be like a 50-50 contribution when it comes to household, parenting, marriage, all the things. It's really like just trying to get everyone to contribute to be 100%. Because there's seasons where I was only being able to contribute like 70% and you were the 30, and then I was contributing like 20 and you were the 80. It just varied in seasons. And so I think that if you guys come together and you create a healthy household in oneness, that helps the idea of you guys being separated, doing things separate.
Yeah, and I think flexibility is a big thing. I think a lot of times we see that either one of the spouses in the marriage will be very prideful, and that leads to being stubborn, and that leads to, hey, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. You need to do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But like you said, like, there's going to be different seasons of life where you're going to have to be flexible and adjust. There were times where, when we had our first kid, and you were doing a lot of the breastfeeding and you were up late at night and, you didn't really have that energy first thing in the morning to go out there and, change a diaper or whatever it may be, or waking up in the middle of the night where the baby wakes up. It's like, man, like, I need to be flexible during this season. I need to do a little bit more. I need to be up in the middle of the night, changing diapers, feeding the baby, or I need to be the one washing the dishes and making dinner late at night, because some you won't have the energy during that time. So it really just depends on the season that you're in, but being aware of that and being able to make that change and adapt when you're in that season.
Yeah, I think being able to do that really just pulls less pressure on individual spouses, because I feel like it is kind of the stereotype for the woman, the mom, to do a lot of the household projects. But if the husband kind of steps in and contributes where he sees needs contribution, it gives her so much more energy to see and fulfill what she needs to as a wife, because being a mother is exhausting. And especially if you're a working mother, especially if you're involved in a lot of things, you're being pulled in there's like 50 tabs open in your head. And so for the spouse to pick up on things that where is needed, that really help her focus on you. And so I think that that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I will say that I know we were talking about prioritizing each other, and like date nights is a part of that. And there's a statistic out there did I say the word right? Statistic out there that says that, date nights do help avoid divorce by 20%, about 20%. So I think that's a big thing, because a lot of times people are like, oh, we don't need date nights. We spend our time with the kids, and like they're so drowned and so engulfed in like the relationship with the kids that they forget about the spouse. So I think a lot of times when that does happen, it separates the relationship between the husband and wife, because now the child is coming in the middle. And you want to make sure that that's not the case, because a healthy marriage, you're setting a good example. You want to model a healthy marriage to your children. So even when they get older, they understand that their wife or their husband always comes first.
Right.
And then the kids, they kind of fall in line after that.
Right.
So, that prioritization system, if you will, is very important. So like, you always want to make sure that you're setting that example for your kids, because you never know who's watching, not only for your kids, but for friends, for family, for coworkers, a lot of people who are outside looking in. You just want to make sure that you're being a good example for them, because when you find us a wife, or when you find a husband, you found a good thing, and God has favor in you. It says that in the Bible. Yeah. And when you have a good thing, you need to make sure that you put in that work for that good thing. So I'm gonna put in that work for you, girl. Yeah, believe that.
Thanks for the work.
Yeah.
The deep voice is killing me. Okay. Yeah. But I do want to clarify with like date nights too, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, you have to go on date nights, as in you have to like go out and go to dinner and spend money and this and that. And I'm gonna tell you, you do not need to do that. We've had seasons where we've never went out to dinner.
Broke as a joke. We was broke as a joke. I'm trying to tell y'all thought I was playing.
And so we would do things where like, if we worked in the same city, we would meet up for lunch. We'd pack our lunches per usual, and we would meet up and we'd eat our sandwiches and salads together.
That ham and cheese sandwich used to be busting back in the day.
And just having that just intentional time. I think that's really what they mean with date nights, is just intentional time, because I hear people all the time saying that they have weekly date nights. And sometimes to me, that sounds exhausting to just show up every week and like
Speak
go to
for
dinner
yourself.
and like get ready.
I'll take that date night every night. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But we would be real creative with our date nights. We'd have we'd go play tennis, we'd go play pickleball, we'd talk a little bit after, before. There was a season where we were really heavily involved in our church where we didn't really have time, but we made it a date night where we dropped the kids off at church and we would have our marriage ministry, and that would be kind of our date night where we're pouring into our marriage in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's really important because people feel like, oh, you're just spending time with one another, but it has to be intentional. You have to go into it knowing that you're going to be talking about each other, your love for each other, your future, your goals, all the things. It doesn't have to be just what's on the calendar for this week? What do we need to tackle on the kids' list or schoolwork or whatnot? It's not like a task. It's a meeting. It's not a meeting. It's like a intentional time together.
Have fun with each other.
Yeah,
I think that's very important.
Do you remember the first marriage class we took and that first book we read?
I do remember the first marriage class because we were the only young people in it. So I do remember that. I'm like,
we're so blissful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We love each other so much. And everyone else is
everybody hated each other. I'm ready to divorce. I'm what did we just get into?
We walk in, we're holding hands and everyone's sitting on opposite ends of the room. Yeah.
Nose kisses. And then everybody, that was weird.
But that first class, we read this book, 5 Ways How to Fail-Proof Your Marriage. And we took really good notes from that one. I still remember they say to have time together side by side. That would be watching a movie together, doing an activity together, and then face to face. That would be really deep, intentional talks, holding hands, staring into each other's eyes.
Yeah, dinner table vibes.
Yeah, without the kids.
Mm-hmm. And then my favorite.
Your favorite, the belly
button to belly button. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na.
Oh, I'm just catching on
I need to catch. I'm she didn't catch. I'm gonna keep going until you catch it.
Okay, I got it. But anyways, belly button to belly button. Y'all know what that is.
Make sure the navels touch.
Okay.
You're not gonna elaborate on what that is?
No.
You elaborate on that too?
I think that our audience is really smart and they're gonna know what that is.
Okay, all right. I was just making sure. Yeah, all of that is very important. But I think a lot of people get a little bit ahead of themselves when it comes to the belly button to belly button, because they think that they can have their own separate schedules, do their own separate things, and just get in the bed at night and they're let's get it on. But I think that it's a type of foreplay that's not really foreplay, but it's foreplay. And what I mean by that is doing the small things.
Yeah.
So, writing her a letter if she's into words of affirmation, or washing the dishes, or making dinner, or feeding the dog, taking out the trash, sending a text message in the middle of the build it up.
Yeah.
Don't just expect to come home and you're just laying in the bed it's showtime. Let's put in a little bit of work, people. Let's put in a little bit of work. Help yourself out.
Goes both ways.
If you're gonna go, if you're gonna go play a sport, you don't just jump right into the game. You're gonna pull something. You're gonna break something. You gotta warm up. Yeah, stretch a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I was about to say something wild. Let me not do it.
Let's not.
But I think that's so important, and that goes into the communication part of things too. I think setting expectations is very important. And I mean, there's two
expectations.
different. Because I was talking about communication, expectation, but I think that. Okay, so Dana and I, some people like to call it the what do they call it? So there's some people if they light a candle. What do you call it? If they light a candle tonight, they know that it's showtime. Your tell. Your tell. I think there's another word for it, but yeah, what your tell?
Your tell is you put a robe on.
When was the last time I've done that? I'm tired of you saying that. But if I do put a robe on, you know what time it is.
It's literally every time he puts on this really thick terry cloth robe, but then he's sweating in. But it's because you don't have any clothes on underneath.
Okay, well I'm gonna cool down at some point. But what I was trying to say is I think that you guys need to have that communication, because some people, they just can't like on the fly, like, hey, like tonight is the night, but they need to know like, hey, every Friday or like every Monday. Or like,
I guess. But like, remember that, things happen. Kids be kids. So
yeah, no, and I get that. Yeah, and that goes back to being flexible as well. Podcast. Yeah, you got to be flexible with it. But I think communication overall is a good thing, and I think that's been a big thing for us when it comes to being able to balance marriage and our children, is just making sure that we're on the same page as far as, oh, when are you taking the kids to practice, or oh, when are you going to have this appointment, or when do we need to make sure we're spending time with the kids, who's making dinner tonight for the kids. Like, there's a lot of things that go into the communication space, but I think
shared calendar.
Oh, and that's where I was going. One thing that's helped us out big time has been our Google Calendar. And if y'all know me, I'm not one to do calendars. That's not really a thing for me. I'm very spontaneous. I'm like, yo, we'll figure it out on the fly. But Dana's like, nah, I need to know what's going down today at 7:31 and 29 seconds, because I need to plan my day accordingly. But that makes her feel peace. That makes her feel comfortable in the environment. And I think if we can get them in that mindset of comfortability and a place of peace, that helps things flow a little bit better in the household. Yeah.
What are some things that you would say we do with our kids together that helps us fulfill both marriage and kids?
Oh, I think like if we have game nights, it's a little bit hard to do with Simi because he's not fully there yet.
He shows up.
Yeah, he's there, And usually the game nights end early because of him, stealing a piece off the table or just mashing up things. But I think sometimes when we have our game nights, I think it's just so cute. Like we play Pictionary we did the other day.
Yeah.
That was really fun. We did
make dinner together.
Yeah, make dinner together. So there's a lot of things that we can do that incorporates everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have those windows where like, hey, when we get off of work and we get home, we're going to focus on the kids. Let's either, let's go to the park. Let's have a game night. Let's watch a movie. Whatever it is, it's something that you guys can do as a family that's still like you're spending time with your spouse, but you're getting the kids involved as well. So that way there's a healthy balance.
So we did this thing last year where we needed to have a cutoff time because we needed to block off time with our kids, because with our line of work, it kind of just flows into just all throughout the day. So there's really no like clock in, clock out. So we just established this time after we pick up the kids. It's 4:00. From 4:00 to like 7:38 is all of our intentional kid time. And that's where we pour into our kids. We spend all the time with them. We do activities. We go on walks. We go to the park. We do bath time, dinner, all the things. And then after that, when it's bedtime, that's our time. And so I think doing that, it knows that we drop the gloves, we put our hats away for our job, we put our us time, separate that. We know both of us going into it that is our time to spend with our kids, and we're going to just have a super fun family chunk of time. And then when the kids go to bed, and that's major key, is bedtime.
Yeah, having a routine is so important.
Having a bedtime and establishing time for you and your partner, I think, is super important. So we put the kids to bed at different times with different seasons, because I get that there's people out there that just don't get to home on time. Like they don't get home at like an early hour where they get to enjoy time with their kids. So I remember when I was working like an hour away, I would get home. I'd like leave before Pia would wake up, and I'd get home like right when it was like her bedtime. So I remember we extended her bedtime to like 9:00 or something like that. So I could have at least like an hour and a half to spend with her. And so we just made little adjustments here and there so that we could have more intentional time. But during that season, when we were both working crazy long hour jobs and stuff, we didn't really go on a lot of date nights, but we would save up and we would have quarterly staycations. So we would save up, and we wouldn't have date nights for like months, but we would save up and we would go somewhere for like one night or a weekend. I'd do like a little staycation somewhere where we'd have intentional time to talk to each other. And that was such a great time. And we still kind of do those sometimes, but I feel like that's really important to be able to have that time away with your spouse where you're not at home like, oh, I got to clean up or I got all these chores to do. You're away and the only thing that you can focus on is your spouse. So I think that can be a good balance when, you are really in the thick of things, you're working, the only time that you get to have with your family is really on the weekends. So you can't just take that Saturday night off when you really you want to be with your family. So I think just like finding a good balance in seasons is really good for each other.
Yeah. And I think that kind of rolls into establishing like shared goals. And that's in like your family, in your business, like just having that sense of teamwork. Because one thing that a shared goal for us, like we had our vision retreat this year, our annual vision retreat, and that gave us a good opportunity to kind of like bundle up everything in one. We gave us time to communicate, gave us a time to appreciate each other. It was a window that we set aside just to really focus on each other and what we want to do throughout the year. And that got into started to get into the conversation of, hey, we want to make sure that we have quarterly staycations. Yeah. We want to meet once a week just to talk about the mundane things so that when we do have our date nights, we can focus on fun and not focusing on, oh, wait, so what do they have for school this week? Or, oh, wait, so they have what activity on this day? So we don't want that to be necessarily a part of our date nights. Our date nights should really be about us and like us enjoying each other's company and having fun. So that was another shared goal we had. So I think a lot of that goes into just making sure that we have the same goals and having the same, and you guys heard me use this before, having that same North Star. And the North Star isn't just only in your parenting, but it's also in your marriage, in your family. Like, what is that you guys are trying to accomplish? And making sure that you guys are on the same page with that. Because that's where you start to have a lot of those differences, is where one person thinks that they're going in this direction, the other person wants to go in this direction, but there was that lack of communication and a lack of just having the same goals at the end of the day. So I think that's very important as well.
Yeah. I think right now, since our kids are little, it's really easy to spend time with them. So we might have to revisit this later when the kids are like teenagers or whatnot. But right now it's like easy to spend time with their kids. But for us, we're in the season of having to like, you have to make that time to spend with each other. It just doesn't come casually, you have to enforce that, create activities. And some of the ways that we've done some fun things together where we are pouring into our marriage while still being in the thick of parenting is we'll have like our little devotions in the Bible app. So we'll open up and we'll do a plan together, and it doesn't matter. We don't have to do it at the same time. We don't have to read the Bible at the same time because our schedules are going to be so different, but we're notified each time one of us finishes the devotion of the day, and we'll put a little comment in there of, what it reminded us of or how we're going to apply that in our life, and like a little prayer at the end. So it's kind of like a very intentional way of like letting your spouse know, like, hey, I'm thinking of you, or hey, I'm pouring into our marriage by doing this little prayer for you.
Yeah, I remember when I used to get them notifications, I was like, oh, nah, she's not going to outdo me in the devotion. I'm about to do my devotion too. Are you going to get this notification?
Keeps you accountable.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you accountable. And it was also a good way for us to communicate as well, because when at the end of the devotion, you're able to write notes at the end, and you just talk about some things that's on your heart. Maybe something that the devotion spoke to you, or it just could have been something random. Like, man, like today I had a hard day, and like, this would just give me an opportunity just to let loose and relax and kind of let my hair down, if you will. But I thought that was a great resource for us because as I said in the beginning, it helped us come closer to God, which brought us closer together at the same time.
Yeah.
So I whenever things are going wrong, I know I can lean on our dear Heavenly Father to bring us back together.
Yeah. We have a lot to learn, obviously, with new seasons as they come. But parenting and marriage, they really do go hand in hand. If you don't have a strong, healthy marriage, then your parenting is not going to be a good example for them. I had a good example with my parents. My parents really prioritized their marriage, but I never felt like I wasn't also a priority to them. So I think that that's important for people to remember, that just because you are focusing on your spouse does not mean that you're a bad parent and that you're not putting enough time and effort into your kids.
Yeah, that's good. And I would always also encourage people, because I know everybody doesn't have this opportunity, but I always tell people to try to find help. Find help. And I'm not just talking about like finding a babysitter. Like that's awesome. Like if you can find a babysitter, if you have the resources to do that,
Or
take
grandma.
advantage of that. Or if you have family or friends that will step into the situation and help you in that area, then that's great as well. But if you guys are struggling in your marriage, get marital advice, get a counselor. We had, some great people in our church that are able to go through this life and this journey with us, so that they're like kind of our support system. And I think that's very important in this walk, because especially when it comes to marriage, people, they think that they're in a corner by themselves and they have to do it alone.
Yeah. And I also think that people think that they have a strong marriage just because they don't argue. But I think a lot of people, what they do is they just try to keep the peace, but by doing so, distance themselves. So just not just confrontation or anything, but just being like really transparent and open. And if there is something that you guys got to work on, that's when you reach out. You reach out to those resources.
What were some resources that we tapped in with prior to marriage, during marriage? Do you recall? Is there anything that you felt like helped us?
I mean, well, in the essence of marriage and kids and balancing, I think having help, like having a village. So we had friends that would help watch our kids. We had family that would help watch our kids, so that we could, be better parents for them in essence.
That's good.
What about you? Did you?
A big part of that was we did a marital counseling class before we got married. I thought that was really good. That just kind of set that foundation for us on things to expect. And I think obviously the marriage groups that we do with our church now has been a big help. There's been some great classes and studies that they provide. And if you guys don't have resources at your church, I would definitely just try to look up, because I think churches are pretty open when it comes to providing those type of resources for married groups, because obviously as a church, you want to make sure that you're feeding into married couples everywhere, because it just helps the kingdom grow. But we just finished doing a marriage study called Re-Engage. And I think that was huge for us, because that really helped us to not look at each other, but look at yourself, look inwardly, and really find areas in your life that you can improve on, that will make your marriage and that'll make your parenting, and that'll just help you find balance all the way around. So I thought that was very, very helpful for us. And right now we're kind of in the stage where we're looking at other married couples that are kind of doing this walk with us, whether it's good or bad. Sometimes we see some things that we're like, no, we don't really want to do that. And then we see some things that we're like, oh, that's awesome, we need to implement that. Yeah. So I think it's been a journey. And I think that during every season of life, you're going to find different things that you can be drawn towards that'll help you guys overall in your parenting and your marriage, and just help you to be more effective in what you're doing in your home.
I think in essence, what you're trying to get to is like just being a student to each other, learning each other, learning all about each other. And then same with your kids. I think that's important to create a healthy balance, so that you're in tune. Everyone's in tune.
For sure. Okay. Well, our food is here, as you guys heard. Mac, let us know that food is here. So you ready to eat?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all so much, and God bless.
Bye.